Hey, everybody, welcome back to another Post Status Live. We do these webinars on a regular basis to share expertise and experiences from our community with the rest of our community. And today is an awesome topic, but more importantly, an awesome person to be sharing her story about building a productized marketing agency in Content Journey. She happens to be the founder and CEO of Content Journey, Lindsey Miller, as well as the CEO of Post Status. And I have the distinct honor of calling her my wife. But this is going to be a great webinar to just hear the story about how all this got started and some takeaways for building a more consistent revenue business generator. I've got to see it all firsthand, and I'd love to see her rise and her team's rise doing what she does best. So without further ado, Lindsey Miller, everybody.
Hi, it's fun. I haven't done a post status webinar yet. I've been CEO for 7 months and this is my first one. So thank you so much, Cory, for having me on and bringing me into the fold and getting to talk to everyone today.
You bet. I think this is such a critical topic because as you and I have worked with or around professional service companies or agencies, it's in a consistent theme, especially when I was doing my work at iThemes, that agencies and freelancers, one always hot button topic is consistent revenue. And it's tough because web developers and agencies and even marketing agencies oftentimes have done customized work. But I think this is a critical thing because to level off that revenue and get consistent income coming in where you're not just, eat what you kill, hunt for the next project and get that revenue in. This is such a compelling topic for our agency audience or professional services audience. And I'm pumped. What are your thoughts before we get into kind of the backstory about why you even tried to build a productized agency?
Well, honestly, all of us in the WordPress space, we've all been around, and I was around you all the time and word camps and all of this, and everyone wanted a plugin company. Wasn't that like the best business that anyone around had? Because there was something so special about building that product and watching it be there and putting all of that like front end work on it, and supporting it was obviously a cost and a consideration. But everyone was started talking about that. And so I think that was part of what got my brain moving, was everybody, like all of the agencies, all of the service people that were out there, even building websites, were like, how do I get a product? How do I build a plugin? How do I do that? And my first business, for anyone who doesn't know, was selling services, but that was back in 2007, 2008, and political consulting. So I've always had this, I have a talent, I'm going to sell my talent, I'm going to sell my brain, rather than I'm going to make my widget and sell my widget. And so there was just something way smarter about the way that you and other people in the WordPress system were creating entrepreneurship and creating business, that I wanted to do that instead of selling my time or selling my brain. I wanted to do it the other way. And so I kept thinking about it and trying to figure out how I could make it work.
And we see those highs and lows all the time, income wise. Maybe I heard historically, enterprise companies had to deal with, budgeting going on, or like we've been talking about economic woes that we're experiencing in the world. And, it affects those that are doing these contracted services for other businesses or organizations. And just being able to level that out a little bit where you're not like panicking by the end of the month because you haven't landed that new project. I love the beauty of a productized agency like you have, because it's subscription based. It's an ongoing commitment that you're going to deliver this set of services for this amount of money. And I've seen you over the past 2 years now. Content Journey is 2 years old. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next month, right? I think.
Yes, August. Yeah, beginning August.
Where you can focus on, by thinking of it as a productized service, you can focus more on the product, making that great and better, and the processes to deliver that kind of quality without worrying, hey, I haven't got a $20,000 website project, and I know that's not necessarily what you do. But those highs and lows seem for you in comparison to a lot of other experiences I've had, a lot, I don't say easier, it's still been a ton of work, but it just seems like it's a more calmer way of business.
Absolutely. I think, I mean, it's still service. I mean, we're still doing something that we have to create. We're creating original things every single month. So we don't get to create one thing and resell it like a plugin or like a microphone or, a water bottle or something along those lines. So we're still, bringing those things together, but we've created processes and are continually refining those processes that make it feel easier. And so definitely, 2 years ago when it was just myself and one other person and some freelance writers on the team, we didn't need quite as many processes. And now we have, a COO on board and a content director who push me into processes more. I tend to be a little bit more, I don't know, let's see what we feel like doing for them. And like, let's delight them with a surprise. And they're like, I don't know, let's work on a deadline and let's have a checklist for that, which is very good that we have that. And that's why we have them on the team. But I think that's what helps it be this creative piece, this, agency working with and selling our work product, but making it the productized space is by creating those processes behind it. Um, I don't know if I like connected your dots there a little bit, but it's definitely refined a lot over the last 2 years of creating that assembly line, so to speak.
Yeah, it seems like when you're talking to, and from my understanding about all of the productized service and my experience with actual products, is it's consistency. We just talked about consistency of revenue, but there's consistency of the product. And then I know, just being married to you, that you all get to go deep with clients over the course of their tenure with you and really get a deep understanding and help to serve them even better by having a longer commitment on the services that you all provide, but that you're able to work on a few things well, get those processes down, pull key team members in that help, kind of cinch up the consistent, machine that you guys have over there. But I wouldn't say it because I know Kenna could send me a quick DM or text and Ray, but like consistent creative is key in what you do. And that's because you've developed this subscription-based productized agency that helps you deliver results very, very well over time.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And I'll say this too, like we've refined who our ideal client is in that regard. Oh yeah, Kenna's listening. I bet Emily is too. They keep an eye on me. They have to. They're like, oh, what did Lindsey say today? And I bet Taylor is as well. They're probably all here, like with their eyes on me. Um, but one of the things we realized about like our ideal client persona, because we have to eat our own dog food, right? Is we don't just do work for people and like send the work. We want people who are engaged. And so we feel really frustrated when we have content or creative or things like just sitting there just because we've done our part and they've paid their invoice isn't necessarily satisfying to us. If it's not out there working, then like we aren't feeling good about it, then they're not an ideal client for us. Even if they're paying us a great amount of money and even if we're getting the feedback from them to like be able to create it, if it's not getting to like the publish place and then we're like actually working, then we're not happy. And so it's part of our onboarding, it's part of our client recruitment, it's part of all of those communications is that we need to have clients that want to be with us through all that because it can make our machine run, like you said. And so it's more than, at least for us, right? It's more than just making sure that revenue is there. And it's more than just making sure the content is created. It is like this full circle thing that's happening.
So first, tell me what Content Journey does. And then if you would, let's start talking about how you conceive to put these services in a bucket or a box or something and say,
Mhm.
here's what we're going to offer the world.
Yeah, I think this is the helpful part, because I think this is where it's replicatable to people in post status or add on for anyone else who has a service type agency, to either include it for their own agency, or if they're interested, white labeling it with Content Journey. So what we do is, we're an SEO and content marketing agency, but we've packaged our plans up into what we think are a focused area. So we start our first month with any new client doing our research, SEO audits, if that's the plan that you have. We're learning about your client voice. We're doing, persona development. If you haven't done that, kind of not super in depth, but, doing some persona development. We're studying your competitors. We're figuring all of that out and creating your editorial plan. That's what it's going to look like over the next 11 months. And then we start writing. And sorry, you have a question. Yes.
No, I mean, the summation, I think, is what I've heard too is SEO, blog or website content as the base of the service that you offer, with all of these additional things.
Exactly. So I think it's important to do more from my marketing perspective than just bring people to the website. And so, sure, that's important, get people to the website, but how do you collect their information? So we create lead magnets for each of our clients. And then we also do emails back to those clients, because we have to continue communicating with them so that eventually they make a purchase. And so that marketing diagram, if you will, is how we do content marketing, and how we've packaged it into these product services for clients. And then there are some things you can add on, but for the most part, we want everyone to fit in to those package sizes. And depending on how fast they want their traffic to grow, they fall into one of those 3 categories. And all of our prices are published on the website. And we do that purposely too. I said this before we started recording, but I'm a parent and a spouse, and I am a friend, and I have a lot of things going on. And so I think is helpful just to have prices published so that it doesn't waste anyone's time, mine or the people that are looking at our services. And so it's all out there so that that piece of the puzzle is already complete. And so, yeah, so it's all there. People know if it fits into their budget or not, and then they can reach out and have a conversation.
So I wanted to give you all some context by asking Lindsey about what contentjourney.com does, so that we can then kind of share the story and how you can pull some takeaways here about how you might take a bucket of things that you can do and put them into a box that you ship to clients. So let's start with this, how you ended up with what Content Journey is today. What was before that led you to go, okay, I want to do a productized type agency and these kind of buckets and these kind of services?
Lots of things. I don't know. There was a lot of things there. I've always had this entrepreneurial drive. And so I've had lots of failed entrepreneurial endeavors. And so the friends who have known me for a really long time have probably seen all of the little ideas that I've tried. In our team Slack channel, they have a little fairy that they put out there, because I always have little ideas. And so that isn't new. That's always been a part of there. But I think at the core, there's been an interest in data and research and writing. And so actually at Pressonomics, what year was that? 2012, 2011?
Yeah, somewhere there.
Something like that.
Quite a bit, a long time ago.
A long time ago, I was like, okay, what's a problem that agencies have? Agencies have a hard time launching websites because they never get their content done. And I'm a writer. What if I start writing their content for them? And so they just pay me, and I'll do it for a couple $100 a page. And they get to launch their site and they get their money paid. And that'll be what I do. And so I remember kind of talking about that. Let's say Gordon and Leah and Rebecca and Sally and all of those people, and being like, this is this thing I'm going to try doing. I'm going to launch this content website business, And so that was sort of the beginnings of that. And then we had some children, and I took a break, and that didn't quite fly with this product and plugin business thing that there was. Corey Ashton was at a WordCamp later, and she was one of the first people that I saw that had taken her website and sold it for several $1,000,000. And the reason she had done that was because she switched from building one website and then switched overnight to forcing everyone to do a maintenance plan. Right. And so this was before everybody did maintenance plans. And I thought, oh, what a smart idea. Okay. So she took that. And so I think all of that stuff was sort of churning in my head. And so I thought, how do you take content and create it like a maintenance plan type thing? And then I was working for a hosting company doing marketing and leaning into content and SEO, which is what I had always known and done. And the rest is history. I just kind of like pulled it all together, saw what some other people were doing outside of the WordPress space and thought that was the thing I was thinking of at Pressonomics all of those years ago. And finally like had an idea that put it together and thought, okay, I think I can do this. And I can take all of the stuff that I've learned over the years and apply it in a really unique way. And instead of just writing blog posts, we can really lean into the research portion and the editorial calendar portion. And I can like honor that data ahead of myself, I guess, and do that. And so I think that's one of the things that makes us really unique is we make sure that we're following our plans and our keyword strategy stuff.
So experience in this area that you can do professional services that you think, okay, I have the confidence to deliver this thing that you've been doing for a number of years. And then the opportunity to pair that with a consistent, productized type revenue model. And then, so who are you thinking about that you would serve when you started putting, okay, now you got interests and competency, you've got these services you could actually do. And then who'd you think about who would be your first or earliest clients?
I don't know. Corey, who did I think would be my first clients? I was in graduate school getting my master's degree in clinical mental health. And so at the time, I think I was thinking a lot about mental health and the capacity for that. And I was learning so much and writing so much in that field. And so I think that was probably really where my interest was lying at the time, and thought too, and this is probably where this came from as well. And something that we still do is if I write for mental health facilities, and who better than to do that than someone with a graduate degree in clinical mental health. And so if we're going to write for somebody, we should have the expertise and the acumen in order to do that. So it's one of the things that we do now. So Ken actually wrote a blog post, I think, about this, about finding the right fit. So we take the extra special steps for that. So if we're writing for a martial arts company, which we do, like we find somebody who has a background or an expertise in that field. So they're actually talking about it intelligently. And so everyone was thinking back to my first clients, I think that's probably what I was thinking about. And it was a mental health facility. That was our first client that got us off the ground. And then another one that came in on accident. I mean, we went from, so 2 years ago, we launched in August. And I think maybe it was technically July, we started talking about it. So we went from August, and then October, we hired our first person. And and then, yeah, it just kind of exploded from there.
See, I knew that would come up a little bit later, but that's interesting looking back on it, going, okay, you were going to actually become, and still are going to take your exam and everything and licensing requirements to become a therapist. But it's interesting. And as I reflect back to, I remember all that. And then that's how it kind of fleshed out. Now you don't have all mental health clients, but that particular organization became a really big client for you to be able to kind of grow around them. Because my takeaway from that is it was something you were very passionate about. And I also think just from the services that you provide in the world, that they weren't being done very well either, which leads me to this question. So we know there's these people think that you can go out and just hire a contract writer and they're going to get what you're doing, from mental health to, I'm trying to think the other client you thought about, but I know you have like a financial or
Credit
banking
union, yeah.
institution. Those are two incredibly different fields that you can't just copy paste to hire somebody that, doesn't know about those things. That requires some nuance to those. So my question is, you get these products and services that I've heard this too from you too, is like, oh, well, why don't we just hire our own? And I go, well, good luck with that, because it's hard to hire anybody. One, train them, get them up to speed, and along with the various, type of clients you might have. But what are some of the ways you wanted to do, what you provide as a product, service, content marketing in a different, unique way from others to differentiate yourself?
Well, we do what we say we're going to do. Like, I know that sounds ridiculous.
Well, let
I
me
don't
bait
know.
you, because you said brand voice.
Yeah.
And I remember looking back, that's so different, because you can see machine content kind of going out. And I say that there might be
Yeah.
humans behind it, but like, it just feels very generic. But when you
Mhm.
said voice, that to me tells something totally different.
So you're going to get me on like my ranty block for a moment. So with the mental health facility, for example, they weren't treating they weren't treating their content with kindness, I guess. They were not being very like human centered in their writing. So for example, when you're talking about addiction, you don't talk about people with addiction. You don't talk about people that have you don't call them drug abusers, for example. Like, that is not a kind thing to use in content. They have a substance use disorder, right? And so the content for that facility had pictures of pills. It had pictures of needles. It had pictures of, it was just it was just horrible. And so you can imagine somebody who's in trouble or looking for help, and they're going to Google like we all do, and they're landing on that facility's website and blog posts from this marketing agency that was doing their content for them. And they're basically saying like, I'm an addict. And they're just seeing this like really defamatory like language to them. And yeah, I took issue with it. And so because we were connected with them already in like some business relationships and friendships, I took the chance of talking to them about what it would look like if we started changing that. And so for sure they took a chance on me, but also I just felt like they needed a more human-centered approach. And the credit union, I would say, is the same way. So instead of talking to somebody, so like credit unions also are a little bit different than banks, which is why we like working with them, because they're very community focused and they help people get out of debt. And they are doing like credit building things, and it's car repossession, and it's very, more of that sort of exact same type of thing. And so when you do content marketing for that, you have to think about that, and you have to be considerate from that point of view, and not necessarily think about, well, okay, what's the biggest search term? Maybe it is addict. Maybe it is, I don't know, car repossession, but you also have to think about like, how do they want their brand represented online, and do that. And so, yes, that is important from our perspective, is to take a step back and treat our clients and their customers with respect, and make sure that we're representing their brand at all points. And that means with the language we choose to use, the photos that we put in as a blog post, right? Like, we don't think it's like that important, but at the end of the day, it is. It represents who they are as a company and who they are as individuals. And so we take special consideration to make sure that there's diversity in photos, that there's appropriate accessibility and alt images, or alt text in the images, not keyword stuffing, which I still see a lot of marketing agencies do, which is not being a good steward online. And I told you you're going to get me ranty. But so that's important to us. And it's one of the things that we do when we're finding expertise in these fields for our clients, is also making sure that we're representing voice. So just because we find someone with martial arts like as that example experience, if they can't represent that client's voice appropriately, we'll replace that writer. And it's also why we have our processes in place, and how it has become a product is because we create the strategy and it gets confirmed by the client, and then a brief gets written, and we have a brand style guide that's created internally. The brief goes, it gets checked by our content director, and then it goes to the writer, then it comes back and gets edited, then it goes to quality control, and then it goes to the client for approval or publishing. And so like we have all of these steps in place so that at the end of the day, it does feel like a finished product rather than a piece of content, which if there's any writers listening, like we can edit a piece of content forever. Like we can send it back and forth forever and ever and ever. And it's one of the things that Ken and I talk about a lot is we just have to let it go, because we could probably just sit there and edit each other's sentences until we're dead.
I like that you ranted, because I think it's important when coming from a product perspective too, is that those rants underlie a belief that I've seen you all do, but take into your work, where you're not just another marketing agency, content marketing agency. And the reason why I wanted to pull that up and you share some of that is because I think when other agencies or professional services companies are trying to think, how do they productize it? It's an important question to ask for me, because you did something different. It just strikes me as going, yeah, you can hire somebody on Fiverr and be a content mill and maybe get some clicks, but those clicks actually, it's not the quality that you might want. And there's a question you can ask, I think, for those listening, and I'm interested in your opinion on it, Lindsey, is, those rants, those big beliefs about why it should be different and how you should approach those things really, really matter when you're talking about your content. Like, they can see your packages, but they can go out there and go, well, I could go try to hire this or try to compare it. And the difference is, I think what I hear too is deep down, like you have a really honed in perspective about how it should be. Like you said, the word human. So that's in big contrast to just hiring any contract writer and having them shove, keywords and all that kind of stuff into it. And the reason why I want to abstract that out for a second is to say, if you're thinking through these services and what you would put in a bucket, what does make you different? And oftentimes it's the rants and those beliefs that you're talking about.
Yeah, you're like, get on one of your tangents, Lindsay, and then you can figure that out. But no, I mean, it's true. There are a lot of content mills, and there are some even in the WordPress space. And that's fine. I mean, there is a place for those. And if that's a good starting place for you, even where you're going back and spending some more time to improve that, like, okay, that works great. But for us and our clients, we just like skip all of those steps and just go straight to high quality content that we know is going to lead to something.
Okay, so we talked about kind of where it came from, your experiences, the things that you knew you could do and deliver at a high level, and then you thought about the clients and the work that you would do for them. And what I really appreciated about this productized agency is it helped you don't stray past those core things very much. Maybe you do every so often, but ideally you're trying to say, we're just going to be experts in this. I bring this up because I think it's helpful for those listening in, trying to think how they do productized services, is the differentiation you talked about, and what is already out there and how you can be different is often back to what you believe about these things, what you want to do for them, the values that you instill, for instance, at Content Journey, really make up your work and your approach to the work. That is not just, oh, I see this productized service over here, I'm going to copy, paste it onto my own site, but actually putting heart into it.
Absolutely. So can I use the example now? The one from your original company? Like, is it fair to use that? The one that the keyword that you owned for so long?
I think so.
Okay. So this is literally how I learned about organic search and how powerful it was and why I love it so much. And it's because there was this guy named Cory Miller who wrote a blog post called What is WordPress, and over on ithemes.com. And owned it, like owned it for years. So like even when like Alexa and Google, the Google Home came out, you could still ask them. Like after iThemes is no longer owned by Cory Miller, Alexa, what is WordPress? And iThemes.com would come up. And I thought, oh my gosh, like Cory, that he wrote that thing like 13 years ago, and it is still there as the answer for what is WordPress. I don't think it is anymore, but it was for like a really, really long time. And content and blog posts and email is really what built iThemes, and in a lot of ways. And so I learned so much from that. And I mean, I applied it in everything I did, whether it was in a business or work or anything like that. And so for me, that's always been the core of marketing. And it's like you spend effort on that blog, on a blog post or on a service page, and it is done so well that you like babysit it a little bit, but you don't have to expend that same amount of effort, and it works for you for years. And so that's what our goal is with our clients, is to spend like such a good amount of time on that front end the first time that it's going to work for them for a really long time, even if they're no longer clients of ours, that it still works for them. And so for our niche part, that is a good example of ads. So advertising, that it's a good thing for people to use. We have ads. Some people have found us through ads. It's a way for us to build our email list, and that's what we use our advertising strategy for. It is not a service that we provide. Can I do ads? Sure. Do I want to set up ads for people? Not really. And at the end of the day, when I talk to clients about it, whenever they come on and I'm trying to find out like what are their goals and what are their strategies and what are they trying to accomplish, I ask like, how quickly are you trying to see something? And if their answer is, we are desperate, we need sales in the door right now, we've got to, it's like, okay, so we need to find an ad strategy. So we have a partner, we have two actually that we work with. And we let them choose which one they want to go to. And we're open about it. You can choose this one's in Colorado, you can do this one that's in Florida, and they interview them and we walk side by side with them. We make no money on it, and we're just with them to like help answer questions and make that process easy for them. And that we call that the microwave, because if like you turn the microwave on, it's going to work. And when you turn the microwave off, it's off. And we have our organic content, and that's our crock pot, where you just like turn that crock pot on and you don't touch it and you don't take the lid off because it's going to mess everything up. And you just like set it and you just like let it do its thing. And if that strategy is going to work, then like we can do our thing and we're going to do it really well. And it's going to be fantastic. And like, trust us, the recipe is going to work every time. And when that crock pot timer goes off, you're going to have a delicious meal. You're going to be able to feed the whole family, and maybe for years. Right. And so that's why we stay in our niche, is because I believe so heartedly in that crock pot method. And it's why we spend so much time on the front end doing all of the right things. It's why we spend so much time doing the right research. It's why we ask so many questions. It's why we do the brief and have the awesome writers and do the extra editing and the QCing and all of those other steps, is because of that. Several months ago, we had a client that, so their boss, they're one of our enterprise clients, wanted to take their content down. So they were doing about 18 posts a month across their like 3 different locations with us. And they were going to have to bring their budget down. And she was like, it's going to be okay, because as soon as they see the traffic decline, then they'll come back up. They'll be like, no, we're back in. And I was like, well, so here's the good thing and the bad thing. Like, thank you so much for being our advocate. But like, here's the good thing is it's going to take a really long time for that to happen, because we've done everything the right way, that your traffic isn't going to decline very fast. And that's okay. And like, that's why we do it the right way. And it is right. And so their traffic didn't decline overnight, and it did eventually. And so we've like picked stuff back up, and they've had a bit more of an importance, but it's why we do everything the way that we do and why we stay niche down.
That's what I accept. You said belief and believe several times. And I I think that's so critical if you're putting together a productized service, is actually believing in what you're doing. I've been on maybe in the room or been party to some of the conversations you've had with clients or prospective clients. And that, I wanted to pull that up and make sure I emphasize that, even though you said it several times, is that the why and the belief behind it is what really, I think, has helped you be successful as a firsthand witness to everything. Because you've had people that chose to go the microwave route or different routes and stuck to what you fundamentally believe in. And that, I guess that's matter. My history with products was I did some products that were extremely successful. And then some products I put my profit as my first priority and thought there's this big market, I go out there, but probably didn't have the passion, the belief in it. And it really mattered. And I think that's one thing as you start to approach productized services from your story alone is believe in what you're doing and why you're doing it. Because let's take the website maintenance example. A lot of people for a long time will talk about security. Well, if I don't understand that, I need to be educated in that. Why? But they believe a lot of our website maintenance agencies and WordPress particularly will really emphasize security. Well, give me the why you're so passionate about it, and there's stories behind that where you have stories that you shared with your clients and other people about how this has worked and this is why you've devoted your entire business just to this. And I think that really does bleed through and matter to clients as you put these productized services together.
Right. Well, and I think that's what's important about how we've done what we've done that makes it easy. And I think this is what we really need to get to. That's important for the post status people who are listening or the agency people who are listening is that we are able to white label our services and they're unlisted prices of what we have. And we have that set up where we work with Lead Blues community and we work with an agency out of Florida and their clients don't even know that we're doing the work on the behind the scenes. So we're doing their SEO research. We're creating their pages. We're creating lead magnets. We're doing that work for those places and they're upcharging those services. And so they're adding that monthly recurring revenue onto their packages and my team's doing all of the work. All they're having to do is sell it. And so that is something that is really, really helpful in the fact that we've created such a great processed out piece and we have the team and the expertise to be able to execute on all of those pieces that other people can now benefit from that.
That's awesome. So we've walked through a lot of the productized agency using Content Journey in your work as a case study for that. But I want to talk about the promise that when you have a product, you're promising something specifically in the productized service. But that really leads to this special word that I know you all take very seriously at Content Journey called process. Yeah. So you've got your packages up, you feel like you believe in these, you're passionate about them, they get results for people if they're willing to go the crock pot versus the microwave. But process is what really delivers the work. Can you talk a little bit about the process and how that has evolved, how it started, some of the ins and outs of that someone listening can go, okay, if I do this set of tasks, put them in a bundle and call it a productized, service, I've got to get the process in place that actually delivers on all those things that I just promised.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of I don't know that it's actually changed a whole lot since the beginning, except the volume. The volume has made it where we've had to document more of the process rather than the process itself developing. So the process is during the first month is just based on relationship building and researching and getting our plan in place.
But can you talk to also how you came to that? Why you put that in your system? Because I think what's really, really helpful for people is your thought process, because if that process stood for 2 years, it was a good process initially, but how did you come up with going, okay, from the point you go, it's going to be 1 blog post, 3, whatever it is, 5 blog posts a month, but you knew you had to create some process for it that hasn't much significantly changed in 2
Yeah.
years. What was your thoughts about, okay, how do I put the process together to deliver this?
The process to deliver, not pricing strategy is not
Just
what you're asking.
the process of delivering the work you just promised. Like, how did you go? For instance, you said the first month is getting the keyword research and doing those things. And how did the brief, I think you mentioned, as a big part of your process too.
Mhm.
You thought of those things about how this engine would work, the system, back 2 years ago or so, that you've made tweaks on over time and maybe added and subtracted things, but it was a core process that has helped you deliver the work consistently and make the consistent revenue. How'd you think about all that? Like, and I'll lead you if you want me to.
I think
but
I do. I'm sorry.
you basically, I think, took your own process about how you do things, and you started, but you had to have some plan. I'll say it as a plan and way
Mhm.
to someone clicks by or pays their invoice, and then, okay, all these things need to start. How did you think about that?
Okay, thank you. That helps. I was like, I went to pricing strategy at first because people ask a lot why we're not delivering something in the first month, and so I'm used to that line of questioning. So for me, whenever I started thinking about like how do we deliver and meet deadlines, as I wanted to make sure there was enough time for every step in the process. So keyword strategy, when done right, takes time. We I'm sure Emily and Taylor would love to tell the story of talking to a client recently where they're like, "Oh yeah, well we have SEMrush. Or what are you doing with your content silos? Like, have you created the content silos?" And they're like, "Content silo." And so they think that because they're paying the $100 a month for SEMrush, and they've heard some of these like keyword strategy buzzwords, that they've already done the keyword research. And so we spent like our first 2 or 3 months with them where they were like, didn't want to pay for keyword research. They wanted to only pay for content. And so it finally took me coming in and having a really difficult conversation and like talking through what that was. And so in order to deliver that, is sometimes is educating people, right? And saying it's more than just getting an SEO tool. You have to analyze that. You have to get Google data analytics. You have to have search console information. You need Bing information. You need backend access to the website. You have to look at all of these things together, as well as competitor research, and ask questions about their brand and their direction and their products and their services and all of that stuff, in order to do proper keyword research and planning. And
So
I,
you go, sorry to go back to there. So
yeah,
step one in your process is we need time to, I think you're abstracting out your expertise that became the content journey process. You're saying, okay,
yes.
we need some time just to figure out what the client needs and make sure we get those things correct. And really why I'm asking that is because it needed to scale for other people on the team that you pull onto the team and the team you have now. So, but I think it started with you and you go, okay, that SEO research process is going to need enough time. And you started mapping that out. And I'm kind of getting more granular on this just so someone can go, okay, I want to deliver these tasks. I want it to scale past just me doing it because I know how efficient you are. But like someone goes, I'm really efficient at this, but thinking through how they document that process that we go, this is the content journey way, or this is their agency way of doing productized services. That makes sense. So like step one
Mhm,
was research, it sounds like. And
mhm.
then you thought through, like they bought an end product, now you got to go make it, and how you put that content journey process together.
So for us is coming up with the research and creating the plan that maps out the next several months, so that we know what's happening over the next several months, so that we now know what we're delivering then. And so we can create that at whatever cadence we need to deliver on time, or to create ahead of time if we feel so bold as to do that, or whatever that cadence may look like.
And over the first 3 months before you got the bigger client, you had some other clients, I think, but were you documenting, okay, got step one, I got to do this because I know at some point I'm going to pull a new team member on and it's going to be this. Were you documenting your own process along the way?
So
Like,
I wrote on a whiteboard and some post-it notes, some of my processes. And then I met this person named Emily Little, and she started helping me process everything out. And so when I met her, she had a few hours available a week, and immediately I was like, can you help me create processes? Because I knew it was needed, and I knew everything was in my brain. It was just like in my head, and so I needed other people to know them.
so you were kind of the prototype engine, if we put that out there, and she helps you extract those things and go, okay, now let's put this in some of that you can give another team member that doesn't live inside your head into that. That's
Right.
how that process. Okay, gotcha. Because you knew, and of course it had tweaks along the way, but you had these beliefs and experiences that you were like, okay, this is how I want it done. And she helped you take those out into a process that became easily replicatable when a new team member came in.
Exactly.
Okay. Because I'm trying to pull it out just for a moment of, okay, now I've got this product I want to sell, but if you're just doing it by yourself, which I think a lot of people listening won't just want to say, oh, I can do that in my sleep. Cool, but can you teach it to someone else? What are
Mhm.
some of the takeaways from that experience? Like okay, Emily helped you extract out some of those, and then you started teaching to new team members as your agency grew with the productized revenue.
Um, whenever I first started, everything is I would go, is every step here scalable? Is everything here able to grow? And what isn't? And so I still have one part that isn't scalable, that I haven't solved for, that we're trying to, and it was QT goal, and it's going to be on Q3 goal again to try to figure that piece out. But that was part of creating my productized agency, was to make sure that everything was scalable. And could it be? And how much could one person theoretically handle? And early on, it was, how many clients could one person project manage? And now I've changed that piece too, so that that looks different as well.
And how did you find, okay, so you get first team member, second team member, third team member, this process that you had kind of extracted from yourself. What are some of the things as you scaled the business that stood out for you that you go, okay, well, like for instance, your one of your processes, you said you still haven't figured out how to scale it just yet.
Mhm.
What were those growing pains and lessons you learned as you tried to give your blueprint to others?
I'm really bad at training, because I think it's because I have such an intimate knowledge of everything, that it really is just second nature to me, like clicking through dashboards or going through something, or words that I'm using, and all of that. Like it's just second nature. And so I am not the trainer of anyone. It also probably means that I get just a little bit frustrated sometimes when like little things are missed. And I'm like, well, why wasn't that done? And I'm like, well, it's probably because I didn't tell anyone that it needed to be done, or I didn't emphasize that it needed to be done, because I just like do that in my process. And so that's been a hurdle, but it's one that I think a lot of people face whenever you have a thing where it's like just you doing it and you're bringing other people into it and you're trying to share it. And also because we were doing things that are new and different. I'm not just bringing people in and writing blog posts. It really is all of this other nuance and different stuff. We literally had the conversation yesterday about lead magnets. And I was like, well, let's just kind of like look around and see what we want to create. And you could see like how uncomfortable it made half of the team, because they were like, why don't we plan that and create deadlines around it? I'm like, okay, or that, like that works too. And so there is some of that, where I'm just taking for granted how what I've done, what I know about the clients and all of that.
Because really, and I think this is what a lot of people that are listening to this or will listen to it are going to face is I'm the expert, but I need to, if I want to scale, I've got to distill these processes where the product still comes out at my level of quality that I've done. And I think that's going to be a hurdle for a lot of people. And I'll point it back at me is I'm fast at doing things, or I think I have, this wealth of knowledge or whatever that someone else new doesn't know. And I think that's going to be a continual problem and challenge for a lot of productized agencies that you obviously had team that came in to help you distill that, train that, teach that, share that within a team. And that's always a process, right? Is going back and like you said, you've identified some of these things, one area that you're still trying to solve for. And really at the end of the day, it's about that efficiency. So you can make this amount of money, but still at lower costs as you can, but still deliver quality product in the end. And I think you just sharing that is really helpful for others as they start to approach these processes. Is like your question was, is this scalable? Can I envision that? Because you had to have envisioned, different team members that you might pull on. Okay, how do I teach them the Lindsey method? That is really the content journey way.
Right.
Any takeaways or thoughts as you're hitting your 2-year mark on all that? Other than it's always a work in progress?
Yeah, it's always a work in progress. I've been really lucky with the people who I've been able to like bring on the team. And so that's, I think I've been really, really fortunate in that way. And I've definitely content journey itself and what we've built has propelled much farther because of that. Um, like, sure, I mean, I had the idea, I brought on some early clients, but like Kenna pushes our quality beyond like what I'm even comfortable with sometimes. And I have to be like, okay, because I'm definitely like good enough is good enough. And that is, I wish she wasn't listening because it's just going to empower her. But she's like, no, like it needs to be like pristine, which is so good. And I'm really, really glad. But like that is it pushes us further. And what Emily does and how she makes sure that we're not dropping the ball on things, which I can definitely do and get distracted by, and Taylor inserting personality into so much and kind of being the glue and bringing everyone together. And so I've been really lucky. Like I hear people talking all the time, like I can't find this person to hire and I'm looking for this person. And that's been my luck, honestly. And my takeaway is just making sure that, and I don't know, finding a strength that I didn't know I was a team builder. I never would have considered myself that, but like I look at who I have around me and I'm like, okay, maybe I am, because I feel really lucky with who we have.
I think there's a key lesson for others too, though, in this is that when you were saying, is it scalable? You quickly realized quality is scalable with quality people. I
Yeah.
think there might be some that goes, how do I just ramp this up real quick? Well,
Yeah.
you're probably going to lower the quality of people and the quality of the work. But the lesson I take from the last 2 years is you've really attracted and recruited quality people so that it's not an assembly line, just shoving parts out. That
Right.
to your process, you knew it couldn't just be, and you didn't want it to be just anybody. It needed to be
Right.
people that added to the quality of the process that could
Right.
work together as a team. That's my takeaway from what you said.
Yeah. I mean, and I would say that, right? Like there were some team members that have left. There have been team members or people who tried to work with us that I said no to. There have been clients that we've said no to, or there have been clients that we've had to create hard boundaries with. And those have all been really, really good decisions. I'm not afraid to say no to a client if they're not the right fit. Even I don't care how green their money is. Like if they're not going to treat our team with respect um and come on board with us, then like they can find somebody else to work with, because I want what we've created to be protected, and that's important.
And outside looking in, I think that's an attribute of your success is that continue to be focused and disciplined on the clients that don't fit, that are going to either wear your team out or not expect the quality of service you're trying to produce for them. But on clients, let me shift, and this will be our last kind of thing, is I think there might be some questions around clients buying into what is, you said earlier, a 12-month commitment. And understanding that these services you're putting in this box are pretty much the core. I know sometimes you kind of go out to help people and it doesn't always translate into a billable hour necessarily, or, you know, but that, you know, how you get clients to really buy into the process, the content journey method and way, and even the price. Okay, it's not $15,000 today, but it might be $15,000 over the next 6 months or 12 months or whatever the commitment is. How have you seen clients react, and what are some of the challenges you faced in saying this is how we do work, not, and it doesn't always fit how they're used to doing work?
Yeah. So we have a blog post, we have a webinar, we have an ebook that's getting ready to get published, and it's all about working with the shadency. And so I'd say 98% of our clients are coming from a burned relationship with another marketing agency. So for whatever reason, it didn't go well. They didn't feel like they got the results they wanted, which, you know, that's here or there. Or they felt like they didn't get anything. They felt like people got ghosted. Somebody, like, you just hear horror stories, right? Like, we have one client currently whose former agency wouldn't let go of their Google Analytics account. Like, they refused. They're like, well, if you're leaving us, we're not, like, this, we set this up for you. So this is our property. Like, I don't know, this BS. I know, like, it's just horrible. And so, like, people are coming in with those relationships and those backstories. And so when you come to us and we do things differently, especially with the investment that you're making with us, it's tough. What I tell people is we do have a 12-month commitment. It is a commitment. We do have a contract. I'm not going to take somebody to court if 6 months in they say, you know what, we're really not happy, we'd like to get out of this. I'm not going to be like, you signed a contract. Like, we do need a 30-day like notice, because we create so much ahead of time. We've probably already created, I will hold people to that. I hold people to the 30-day notice. And they'll still get the deliverables for all of that 30 days too. It's not like we just immediately stop, but like, I hold people to the 30-day notice, but I don't hold to the 12-month. But what I do say is it sets us up to know that organic search and content marketing takes time. And so if you know that once we start working together, that you're not going to see results overnight, that you're not going to see results in a month or 2 months or 3 months, but you have the expectation to start seeing traffic come to your site in 12 months, then like, it just sets us up for a better success, and to know that your investment is over time. In the Shade and See ebook, we talk about budget fit. That's really important. If we are priced too high for you and it is uncomfortable, even if you like the sound of our services and our relationship and all of that, it's okay to say no. If you're stretching to pay our invoice every month, you're going to stress out about it. You're going to question our work. You're going to be watching your analytics, waiting for it every single day to do something. And that's not going to make you be happy or us. And so I will refer you to friends or other people that I trust and know also do good work. And so that's it. It's a conversation, and it's just about us being open and honest and vulnerable with each other at the very beginning. And hopefully we are able to create the type of working relationship that sets us both up for success for the long term. Bless you.
Thank you. Okay, with the last 2 minutes, any takeaways about just reflecting back on growing a productized agency that we missed that you might want to share with others?
You know, we didn't talk a lot about how easy it is to work with others. Like, we touched on it just a little bit, but how the reason we have focused on content marketing is because we don't do ads and we don't do website building and we don't do social media marketing. We're like hardcore social media marketing, but we do work with those types of agencies, and where they have their own productized service. And so like that fits really well with partnerships. And so like that's something that's really important to note too. So if other people are out there creating their own productized services, then that's a really good place to start with a conversation with us of how we can help each other grow.
All right, Lindsey Miller, founder, CEO of Content Journey. Where can people find you and Content Journey to learn more?
So contentjourney.com. I'm also in post out of Slack, obviously, Lindsey Miller. On Twitter, we have a YouTube, we have an Instagram, we have LinkedIn, we have all the places. Content Journey is the handle and all of them except Twitter, which is Lindsey Miller WP.
Cool. Thank you, Lindsey Miller, for sharing your experiences growing a productized agency with our post-test community.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being here today, and we'll see you next time.